Wonderful. Mayor BARKAT, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm speaking to you from New York. I'd like to tell everybody out there that Mayor BARKAT was elected mayor of Jerusalem in 2008. During his tenure, Mayor BARKAT has worked to promote tourism, address social welfare issues, and encourage the development of local high-tech, also in the ultra-Orthodox community. Nir started his career in the high-tech industry by founding a software company called BRM in 1988, which specialized in antivirus software. Later, the company became an incubator venture firm that invested in several companies such as Checkpoint and BackWeb. Mayor BARKAT later helped found the social investment company IVN, and in 2007 took part in the Israeli version of Dragon's Den. Mayor, I think you've done more in a few years in high tech than the rest of us do in a lifetime. And so now I'll turn the conversation over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you, Adam. And I want to, first of all, thank the American Friends of Likud for hosting me and for your help. I'm not sure you're aware, but as of the last few weeks, I'm officially joined the Likud party. Signed up. I was aligned with Likud for and supported Netanyahu in his last two campaigns. But now I made it official, and so I'm speaking to you as a Likud member, not only as mayor of Jerusalem. Now, Toda Rabba, thank you so much. Now, before I brief you on some of the challenges we have on the security side, I think it's prudent that we discuss the trends in our city. Thank God the city in the last few years is really enjoying a cultural renaissance, growth in our economy. The municipal budget has been growing in the last 7 years on average, 10% year after year. We've been added to the top 10 most attractive sites, cities to visit by Time and Travel and Leisure magazine. We've been defined as one of the top emerging tech hubs by Time magazine and Entrepreneur magazine. As a matter of fact, number one in the world because we have huge growth in new startups in Jerusalem. I manage a 29 out of 31 council member coalition, which is practically from wall to wall. That means that we know how to work together to promote Jerusalem's economy and welfare and challenges in social and educational challenges. I'm saying all this because it affects all residents of the city of Jerusalem, Muslims, Christians, Jews, secular, national religious, and ultra-Orthodox. We have very good working relationships with local leadership in different neighborhoods, and all this together actually enables us to focus on the positives and make Jerusalem become more and more successful by the year. Now, this also includes very positive trends we have in East Jerusalem. We have muhtars, community council leaders, business leaders, school principals, very moderate and positive people. And hopefully you would not be surprised when I tell you that they all seek improving quality of life, better jobs, better infrastructure. And indeed, this relationship, you could probably look at two very interesting results in East Jerusalem for me that tells us that we're in the right direction. The first is a general happiness and from living in the city of Jerusalem. We see that we have very positive trends when people do polls in the city, and you may want to Google Washington Institute. They've been polling residents of East Jerusalem in the last few years. We can also see that from about 34% of the public that wanted the city united about 4 or 5 years ago, the last poll done half a year ago, we're up to 52% of the residents that prefer to be part of the United City of Jerusalem. You see that trend improving because they don't want to detach from our hospitals and our jobs and the improvement in the quality of life. So that's about the trends in our city. On that trend, we had the last round of violence in Jerusalem. If you really want to understand what has happened is It's about the Facebook era. And many of the young teenagers that work in that are together in social media, they were unfortunately incited by lies told by the Palestinian Authority and unfortunately some radical Islamic leaders that Israel wants to change status quo on the Temple Mount, that we want to, God forbid, hurt the Muslims on the Temple Mount and the Haram al-Sharif, which of course is a total lie. Both Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government and the municipal government and the police, we will do whatever we can to maintain status quo in the city. However, our voice was not heard, and those incitements got more and more youngsters to be violent. And when there's a rise in violence, there's also a rise in terror attacks. What we saw is sporadic people that take knives or their cars and they unfortunately go to kill Jews and to create terror. Initially, when this wave started, we tried to naturally calm it down, tell the truth, and see if we can somehow get the violence down. We understood that it's the challenge is quite challenging. And what we've done is a few things. We have actually distributed the police in Jerusalem in a very smart way. We've requested many of the residents, and I'll be happy to expand on that maybe in the Q&A, carry weapons to deal with terror. We're talking about many civilians that are ex or current army soldiers as civilians that carry weapons that are very effective side by side to the police in engaging and neutralizing threats. Since you don't know where a knife can come from, the distribution of police and the security forces and people with weapons that are willing to engage with terrorists has become very effective. The public is very alert. In many of the cases, it's the public that sees somebody suspicious that calls police to deal with terrorists and people trying to kill us. And so all that together has become very effective. In, on average, less than 60 seconds, somebody engages with a terror attack, with a terrorist, and neutralizes them. I have to add one more thing, that we did put about 2.5 months ago, after the bus attack in Armon HaNatziv, I've requested and the national government helped us put roadblocks between the different neighborhoods of the city. The roadblocks saved lives and created some challenges for the Arab residents, the ones I shared with you earlier. Good leadership, moderate leadership, that did not know how to deal with the wave of violence. What happened is that once we put those roadblocks, local leadership in Arab neighborhoods came to us and requested for us to take off the roadblocks. And naturally we said to them, if you take control over the kids that are violent, we will release the pressure, because we don't want the pressure. We want the pressure just in order to save lives. And as a process of after a few days, after a few weeks, one by one we took the roadblocks off. The 30 roadblocks we put in the city has decreased the crime rates or the terror by 90%. And indeed, when we were sure that the local leadership is taking back control over the different neighborhoods, we took the roadblocks off. Today, there's one next to Jabal Mukaber, a problematic neighborhood. We still have some challenges with the local leadership. But in essence, what we've seen is a very effective approach of how to deal with the knifings and the violent, how to put the violent people back in the back in the box. And what we have is, again, a rise of the moderates that take control of the Arab neighborhoods and work with us, side by side with the police and the municipality, to decrease tensions. In the last 2 months, the people that did attack in the city of Jerusalem are not Jerusalemites. They don't come from the Arab neighborhoods of Jerusalem. They come from outside the fence, from Hebron and from other places. And I do feel, if I could summarize the security position we're in right now, is that by reacting wisely to the cause of the challenges and the terrorists. May it be by working with moderate leaders in East Jerusalem. May it be by putting roadblocks, releasing roadblocks wherever needed to decrease the tension. Smart distribution of police. A very fast engagement with terrorists. And as important, making sure the residents of the city of Jerusalem understand that what we need to do is as fast as possible go back to life. We have not canceled any events, and we will not. We have not stopped. Well, naturally, there's, you take the forensic evidence in the scene, we clean up and move on as fast as possible. The resilience of the residents is one of the best ways to fight terrorists, and tell them we will not deter, change. As a matter of fact, if anything, we're more stubborn to build and make Jerusalem successful. And that kind of thought resonates very, very well with the residents of Yerushalayim. I'm very proud of our residents. I believe, and I'm very optimistic. And I'll just finish with some amazing statistics that I don't know if you're familiar with. One of the ways to check how safe cities are is compare murder rate per 100,000 residents. America has 9 murders every 100,000 residents. That's the average. Jerusalem, in a bad year like last year, we had 1.5 murders in Jerusalem. 9 from terror, 4 from murder. That's 13 murders on 2015 on a population of 850,000 residents, almost 900,000 strong. So we are 3 times safer than New York, 2 to 3 times safer than New York, 6 times safer than America. And so when I fly to America, I pray to come safely to Yerushalayim. So that's the statistics, and I'll be very, very happy to answer your questions.
Okay, I think we'll start with something personal. What are your future plans regarding running for national office now that you've have officially joined Likud? And I have to tell you, actually, I did not know that you were not a member of Likud. I thought that you always were. So when I read about it, I was pleased, but I think that you had a meeting a number of years ago in New York under the Likud banner, and so myself and my friends, we thought that you were always part of our group.
Actually, I was in thought and in ideology, but not officially. Of Jerusalem, I was and still feel that I represent. For me being sort of independent, helped me get to a certain point. But now I realize a few things. First of all, connection to a national party helps. It is not on the account of anything else I do. As a matter of fact, once I joined the Likud party, if anything, my party grew. We were able to create more and more relationships internally in the municipality of the city of Jerusalem. Now, you asked about my thoughts. I said when I came into office 7 years ago that I would like to do between 2 to 3 terms as mayor of Jerusalem. Minimum 2, and I still have almost 3 years to go, and maximum 3. I also know at this point, after serving the city 7 years as mayor and another 5 years as a head of opposition, that I will not return to my business career, which I enjoyed tremendously at the time, and I will continue serving. So I will join the national level when I finish serving as mayor. I want to finish my term, which is, again, the elections are November 2018. And then if I decide to run a 3rd term or not, I will make probably a year before. Regardless, I believe that building my home, my political home in the Likud, I should start now because it helps me as mayor and it will help me in the future.
Okay, well, getting back to the city and away from you personally, in the press, at least here in America and certainly in New York City, the Temple Mount issue is highly incendiary. On the ground behind the scenes, is that also true?
Well, the tension is, but it's not based on facts. It's based on incitements and rumors that have nothing to do with reality. I've actually been a few times been invited by Prime Minister Netanyahu to sit in a national government's discussions on Jerusalem. And it's very, very clear to me that the Prime Minister and the government do not intend to change status quo by any way or any means. Now, we live in a democracy in the Middle East. People have their opinions. Some of the Muslim leaders want to change the status quo and stop enabling Jews to get on the Temple Mount. You have people, Jewish people, that would like to change the status quo and pray on Temple Mount and increase the ability to their sovereignty. However, the status quo says the Jews can get on the Temple Mount, not pray on the Temple Mount, and that status quo must be maintained. If we like it or dislike it, it's disagree and commit, and that is what has happened since 1967. Now, there were a few people that want to change it, but it's a democracy. People could say whatever they feel, but the national government is totally committed not to enable change in the status quo. This fact has not changed since I remember myself as a kid. There are always people that want to change it, and we're always committed to maintain it. So, when people create rumors and people believe the rumors, you have to fight the rumors and officially and non-officially do whatever we can to calm the atmosphere and to decrease attention.
Now, I suspect Mohammed Abbas actually believes that neither Jerusalem nor the federal or the municipal government wish to change the status quo, but it appears that he's certainly not speaking to the people on the street in that manner. Is that true?
Unfortunately, they're not helping the situation. If anything, the local leadership enjoys the violence around through those incitements. It's very unfortunate. We will fight it as much as we can, and hopefully this wave will pass, and people will see that indeed there's no will, and no facts on the ground to prove these rumors because they're a lie.
Okay. Helen Friedman, one of our members from New York City, asks whether the E1 corridor is considered part of Jerusalem, and if so, why has the EU been allowed to finance Bedouin buildings throughout the area?
E1 is not part of the city of Jerusalem, unfortunately. It's between Ma'ale Adumim and Jerusalem, so it's not under my jurisdiction. Unfortunately, I think the national government should be more aggressive on that piece of property. But right now, I think it's in the hands of the national government, and it's not under my influence.
Okay. I think we've all heard that Jerusalem is the only city in the world that has a housing inspector as the President of the United States. So do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, of course. Many people in the world come with all kinds of political opinions or ideologies, and you naturally heard many statements made by even Western governments that are asking to freeze building in East Jerusalem. Well, as a Jew, I have some questions to ask them before I give them an answer. And factually, we're giving licenses to Arab residents in East Jerusalem. We're building classrooms. We're building roads and infrastructure. When people say freeze in East Jerusalem, do they mean we freeze everything? Or God forbid, they mean that I as mayor of Jerusalem should ask somebody before he asks me for a license, if he's a Jew, a Christian, or a Muslim, black or white, before I give him a license? Jews, Christians, and Muslims are allowed to buy property anywhere they want in the world. Can you imagine the mayor of New York or the mayor of Washington, D.C., zoning people by the religion, by the color of their skin? It's not constitutional. Under any law, I cannot discriminate Muslims, Christians, or Jews by buying or building property as long as they build by the law, according to the law. And my question is, What do you mean, freeze what? Freeze by religion? Freeze by areas? Usually when I ask these questions, I don't get an answer. And I am totally committed as mayor of Jerusalem to plan and enable people to build on private property. And public property, it goes for a bid for the highest bidder. We don't know who wins the bids. They could be Jews, Christians, or Muslims. And we're committed by law not to to stick to this kind of strategy. We cannot discriminate by religion. We will not discriminate Jews when they buy or build anywhere else in Jerusalem or anywhere else in the world. So I basically what I say to the world, I totally dismiss the criticism. We're totally committed just to enable Jerusalem to scale and build like any other city in the world.
In all the talking about the settlements, particularly here, out of Washington, and also now with the recent stabbings, you as mayor have been able to keep a very low profile. How have you been able to do that? You've been able to make the news not about you in any way, but more about the facts themselves, and not every politician does that.
I try to be as factual and to the point as possible. My background is business oriented, and I try to look and analyze the situation and to demonstrate to the people that listen what the challenges really are. It's not about me; it's about the city of Jerusalem. And so I think it's explaining to people. For example, one of the challenges we had is when I called people to carry their guns. America was totally shocked. Well, here's the difference. In America, you have about an average of a weapon per person. I would assume about 1/4 of the households in America has a weapon. Well, in Israel, it's very, very different. You're probably amazed to hear that only 3% of the Israeli public carry weapons. 3%. And the ones that do, the majority of them, are officers in the Israeli army. They do 30 days reserve. They're trained to combat, and they know how to deal with terror because eventually they're trained to go to war and kill the enemy. And sometimes when an officer in the Israeli army has a gun at home or can carry it with them, in the cases of the rise of terror, when you need guns on the streets by professionals, then carrying guns by professional soldiers, officers, sometimes they know how to deal with terror better than police. They're as good, if not sometimes better trained than classic policemen. So when you look at what happened in the city of Jerusalem, over 1/3 of the incidents, about 40%, were neutralized by civilians carrying guns, and where there's no misuse of guns in our streets, like in America. So it's totally, totally different than America. And it's very difficult for people in America to understand what we've been doing. So I've been trying to share those differences and show the huge advantage we have in Jerusalem. So it's actually explaining to people in the world what we're doing and why this is positive versus negative.
Okay. I think I'm permitted one last question, and it deals with foreign Jewish groups, particularly in America, who wish to strengthen Jerusalem. And the question is, are these groups as effective as they could be, and would such efforts be more effective if they work through your office?
Well,
I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah, I think it's. I believe that we could probably help guide people to have a bigger impact. Now, we don't need things to go through the municipality. Things can go directly to the different non-for-profits. I think we could probably give some perspective to people before they invest major investments. And it doesn't cost you anything. You don't need, we don't charge for advice about the city of Jerusalem. So I do believe what we know, if it's in education, in welfare, in culture, if it's in other things people are interested in, to invest in synagogues and other religious issues, we could probably give you some perspective to help you understand what is happening in our city. So I would be happy that my team and myself to give you free advice. It doesn't cost anything. You don't have to do what we say, but we will be very happy to give you that advice to, how would I say, tailor or fine-tune your investments in our amazing city of Jerusalem. So, again, we have growing number of investors, maybe for non-for-profit or for-profit or any kind of combination between, to improve the situation in Jerusalem, and we'd be very happy to serve you on that.
Wonderful. I think that was a perfect response. I knew it was a difficult political question. And I think that, Adam, I'm now turning this back over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And also, Mayor Barkat, it's not just the civilians who are thwarting it, obviously the IDF, the police, and in fact, one very highly visible mayor of Jerusalem who, as we all saw through our YouTube, that you were involved in not only one, but in fact two unfortunate opportunities where you had to intervene yourself personally to help take down these terrorists. And we are fortunate and grateful to have such a strong presence and even more so a Likud presence as the mayor of Jerusalem. We look forward to not only speaking to you again, perhaps on more conference calls, but even when our groups come to visit Israel on our AFL biannual missions, and of course when you come to visit us or visit the States, we look forward to having the opportunity to see and speak with you again as your career as mayor and later on in national politics continues. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on this call, and thank you, Mayor Barkat, for taking time out of your very busy evening.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, AFL. See you in Yerushalayim.
Looking forward. Thank you again. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.